experimental compared to the control group. You see increase for the experimental and a slightly lower number for the control group. We also see a very strong relationship between affinity towards the program and ability. So what we're seeing from the research is that if girls have a high affinity towards the program, that their participation actually increases. So in conclusion, what does this all mean? Girls of color and low-income girls can succeed in STEM. Girls of color possess the capacity to master complex STEM knowledge. In order for girls of color and low-income girls to remain in STEM programs, they need access, they need adults to recognize their assets, and they need adults to expect success for them. Yeah. They must feel like they matter to the adults who are implementing the programs. What happened to the child in the case analysis? She is an adult, a research scientist with degrees in chemistry standing before you. Thank you very much. Mm-hmm.
I want to thank everyone, especially our previous panelists, for the inspiring day we're having today. Starting with Valerie Jarrett, who always inspires me, no matter what she says. It seems like it comes from a very deep place in her heart, great experience, and a lot of knowledge of what we need to do as a country. And I think we hear the same from our panelists today, a lot of passion, a lot of experience, and a lot of insight into what we need to do. So I'm not sure if I can add too much, but I'd like to add just a couple of comments about my own career and also what we need to do as a country to change our higher education. Girls are discouraged in college just like they are in K-12 and just like they are in their future careers. So I've been a scientist in the lab. I wanted to do that when I was a kid. I didn't really understand what that was, but I had this vague notion that I wanted to play in the lab. And I got to do that. I was very fortunate. I saved up my babysitting money when I was 12 years old so I could buy a very old microscope. And I spent my teen years staring through a microscope when I wasn't studying or doing something that I thought was quite boring. Fortunately, I survived all those boring courses, and I ended up becoming a scientist. I became a professor, first at the University of Wisconsin and then at Yale University. I love teaching, I love doing science, and now I'm working for the most wonderful and powerful man in the country. My husband didn't hear that, did he? Sorry. Who absolutely loves science and believes in all of the principles of equity and involvement of all people. So what more can I want in my life? I really have only one more career goal. When I retire, I hope I live in a world where no girl ever hears, "you can't." Though it is so tragic to me that it was still in the 2000s, I imagine, based on how young Ivana is, that people were saying, "you can't because you're a girl." I heard that, but that was 30 years ago. Everyone expected it then. We didn't know what to do with it. Hopefully today we know what to do with those comments. We know that we fight them, we rebel against them, and we support other girls and other women against those comments to convince them that they're not true. We have a lot of barriers to deal with in higher education and throughout the education and career trajectory in STEM. And the three that the White House is working on right now are, first of all, the way we teach, the images of scientists and what science is, and the biases that women, girls, and minorities face. The way we teach is absolutely critical. We know that women and minorities respond to different kinds of teaching positively than men do. They have much stronger responses to engagement. They have much stronger responses to hearing about the social relevance of the work. They want to do something to change the world more often than white men express that feeling. So we need to bring the active engagement into the classroom. We need to bring the relevance of STEM careers and help students understand how actually being an engineer does affect the world, or being a biologist can make people's lives better. That's important, but that's not part of the curriculum as we pose it today. We also need to find ways of engaging girls and women in research and inquiry and internships early in their careers. We can't wait until they've dropped out because they won't have those opportunities. And 60% of our STEM students in college do drop out of STEM. Not out of college, but out of STEM. We drive them away. We're very good at that as college faculty. We need to fight back against that and get students into the kinds of experiences that will make them love STEM, see themselves as STEM professionals, and pursue their dreams. In the area of images, it shouldn't be that every girl should have to have an electrical engineer as a teacher or an astrophysicist as a teacher and a role model. That's not ever going to be possible, at least as the numbers work for me. So we have to show them those images from the outside. And so one of the things we're starting to do in the White House is work with the media industry, the entertainment industry, and try to introduce images of women and minorities in STEM fields doing great things, but also being normal and appealing people. So often, girls, particularly in middle school, turn away from STEM because they see it as a choice. They have to either become an appealing or attractive girl or woman or go into STEM. We have to show them images that bring those things together, that STEM professionals can be athletes, they can be tall, they can be short, they can be black, they can be white, they can be any type of person. And they can also be moms, which is a really important image that we rarely see on television. And finally, we need to fight the biases. We hear that the explicit biases are still there, but implicit biases are probably playing an even greater role in the choices that girls and women make to either pursue STEM careers or remain in them. The attitudes that we all have, and they're egalitarian in one sense, because women, men, blacks, whites, all carry these stereotypes in our heads. And we have to become aware of them so that we can fight them. And we have to point them out to our colleagues and our friends and our families when they start applying those stereotypes. And finally, we need to dispel the biases at the institutional level. Too many institutions have practices or policies or structures that are just difficult for either women who want to be mothers or people who have elder care or people who just want to have a life outside of STEM. So I think we have 3 big areas to change, and I look forward to partnering with all of you to make sure those changes happen.
Good morning. I'm very, very honored to be invited to speak here. Right click, right? No? Okay, good. My work is around inequality and segregation, how fields become segregated, and I look at the world of computer science. But I wanted to actually also tell a little bit about myself that wasn't in the bio that I realize is pretty relevant. I was incredibly moved by the students' stories. You're not students, you're adults at this point. But when I was after college, I came from a very middle-class family where boys and girls were considered to be equal and could do all the same things and everything. And after college, I got a job as I wanted to be a teacher, psychologist, but I got a summer job as a telephone operator. This was in the 70s, and I was making directory assistance and long-distance calls, with the cords and everything. And at that point, affirmative action came, and the government ordered that all traditional women's jobs traditional male jobs had to have women. And so they came to us telephone operators and asked for volunteers of who wanted to become a telephone installer. I wanted to do it, and so I became one of the first telephone installers 1970 in San Francisco, climbing up the telephone poles and, going down underground. And I, that